At the very end of the forest, where the sun was warm and the air was fresh, a beautiful young fir tree lived. However, he felt that he was too small, so he wasn't and 39 very happy and wanted to be as tall as the pine trees and fir trees he really liked. The sun shone brightly and the calm atmosphere shook the leaves of the trees. Farmers and number 39 children passed by, their mouths chirping, but the fir trees did not pay any attention. Occasionally they would carry over a basket of raspberries and strawberries covered with raspberries. And when they sat down near the fir tree, they said, "Isn't and 39 this sapling beautiful?" Hearing that, I felt even more bored than before. However, during that time, each year the fir tree grew a knot that made it taller, and by the number of knots on the trunk of a fir tree, we could tell the age of the tree. But the fir tree is so big that it still complains, "God, I want to be as tall as those trees, then I will spread my branches in all directions and the top of my tree will look over a vast world. I will let the birds build their nests in the branches, and when the wind blows, I will bow down as majestically as my tall friends." That tree was so unhappy that the warm sunshine, the singing of the birds, and the pink clouds drifting overhead from morning to afternoon did not make it happy. Sometimes in winter, when the ground is covered in a bright, white color, a rabbit jumps across and jumps up into that tree. Oh, what a shame! 2 winters passed, and when the third winter came, the fir tree had grown so much that the bunny had no choice but to run around the trunk. Yet that fir tree still wasn't and 39 satisfied, its mouth groaning, and quat, "Oh, I wish I could just grow taller and mature forever. There is nothing else in this world to care about." And quat. When autumn came, as usual, the woodcutters cut down the tallest trees, and the young fir tree, now arrogantly scratching, shuddered when he saw those tall trees falling to the ground with a loud thud. After the branches are pruned, the trunk looks so slender and bare that it is no longer recognizable. They were then loaded onto carts and pulled out of the forest by horses. Where do those implants go? What will happen to them? That young fir tree really wanted to know that, so when spring came, when the swallows and storks flew in, the tree asked, "Do you know where those trees were taken? Have you met them?" The swallows didn't and 39 know anything, but the stork thought for a moment and nodded and said, "Yes, I saw it. I saw many ships when I flew there. The ships had beautiful masts that exuded the woody scent of fir trees. I in number 39 am sure those must be felled tree trunks. They look majestic and majestic, really. Oh, I wish I grew up to go to the beach," the fir said. "What is the sea? What does it look like?" "It takes a lot of time to explain," the stork said, flying away quickly. Those rays of sunlight remind, enjoy your youth. Enjoy your youth and the young life within him. Then a caressing wind and fresh dewdrops fell on the tree, but the fir tree did not pay any attention. Christmas Day was approaching and many young trees were being cut down, some even smaller than that fir tree, while the fir tree stood restless, hoping to leave its forest home. The young trees were so beautiful that they kept their branches intact and were loaded onto horse-drawn carts out of the forest. "Where are they going?" the fir tree asks. "They are not as tall as me. Some are even tiny. Oh, but why Don and number 39 they cut down the branches. Where do they go?" "We know, Said the swallows, "We look into the windows of the houses in the city and see how they are used. They are dressed in extremely splendid clothes. We saw those wooden trees standing in the middle of a cozy room, and their bodies were decorated with all kinds of things, so beautiful, like honey cakes, apples made of golden paper, toys, and countless tiny candles. So, the fir axe, its branches trembling, then what happened? We can and number 39 see anything anymore," said the swallows, "but that and number 39's enough for us. I wonder if something so beautiful could happen to me." The fir tree thought that would be much better than going to the beach. "I want that to death. Oh, when will Christmas be here? I am now tall and mature, no different from the trees they cut down and carried away last year. Oh, I wish right now I was loaded into the car or standing in a warm room, with all the splendor around me. There must be something wonderful coming later, that and number 39's why those trees are so beautifully decorated. So what comes next will be more splendid and beautiful. But what is it? I want to see it so much. Have fun with us." The air and sunshine said, "Enjoy your own brilliant life in the cool air." But the fir tree is still not happy, even though it grows every day. Then winter and summer come. The tree and number 39's dark green foliage stands out in the forest, making passers-by admire, and quote, "Oh, that this tree is so beautiful." As Christmas approaches, that disgruntled fir tree is the first tree to be cut down. When the axe hit, penetrating deep into the core, the fir tree fell to the ground, cried out in pain, fainted and forgot all desires for happiness. Then the fir tree was sad when it had to leave its forest home. He knew that from now on he would never see his old dear friends again. He would never see the big trees and small bushes, and the many beautiful flowers growing around him, maybe even the another bird. But the trip was not interesting at all. The fir tree first regained consciousness when they placed him in the yard of a house among many other trees. He heard someone say, "We only need one tree, and this one is the most beautiful." Two servants in uniforms came forward and carried the fir tree into a beautiful, large apartment. There are paintings hanging on the wall, and near the large fireplace there are two porcelain vases with lion-shaped lids. In the house there were rocking chairs, silk armchairs, large tables covered with pictures, books and toys, and lots of money, at least so the children said. After that, the fir tree was placed in a large tub, standing proudly on an extremely beautiful carpet. The fir tree is shaking so much. And quote, "I Don and number 39's understand what will happen here." End quote. Several young girls came and the servants helped them decorate the tree. On one branch, they hung small bags made from colored paper, each bag stuffed with candy. On other branches were apples and pecans made of parchment paper, looking as if they had already grown there. On top and around the tree are countless tiny candles of all colors: blue, red and white. The dolls looked like tiny babies placed under green branches. The fir tree had never seen such things. In addition, on the top of the tree there is a sparkling star made of tinsel. "Oh, how beautiful! Tonight will be absolutely gorgeous!" they shouted. "Oh, I wish it were evening and everyone had lit their candles," thought the fir. "Then I would know what will happen. Will the trees in the forest come to visit me? I wonder if the swallows will fly over and look through the window? Would I still grow up here? And keep these decorations all winter and summer? when we have headaches. Finally, those tiny candles were lit and the fir tree glowed brightly. All its branches and leaves trembled with joy, causing a candle to fall and stick to a leaf, causing several leaves to burn to the ground. "Oh, help me! Help me!" the girls cried out, but there was no danger because they quickly extinguished the fire. After that, the fir tree did not dare to tremble anymore, even though the fire scared him, because he was worried that doing so would hurt the decorations on the tree, even though even then they were shiny. Confused, making him dizzy. At this point, the folding door swung open and a group of children rushed in as if they were about to knock the tree over. They are followed by less noisy adults. For a moment the children stood surprised, silent, then they shouted loudly with joy, until the whole room rang and the children jumped around the fir tree, one by one taking the gifts hanging from it. "What are they doing? I wonder what will happen next," thought the fir tree. Finally the candles burned down to the branches and went out. Then the children were allowed to rush in and plunder the tree. Heaven, so they rushed forward, the branches and leaves cracked, and if the fir tree and the twinkling star were not tied tightly to the ceiling, then surely it must have fallen down already. Then the children jumped around, holding beautiful toys. No one noticed the tree, except the children and number 39's nurse, who ran to look among the branches and leaves to see if anyone had forgotten an apple or a fig. "Tell a story, tell a story," the children shouted, pulling a fat man towards the tree. "Come on, sit down under the shade of the green tree," the person said, sitting right next to the fir tree, "so that the tree can be happy too." It and number 39's nice to hear stories, but I and number 39's only telling one story. What a number 39's going on now? The story of Ovid Avede, or Humpty Dumpty, fell down the stairs, but got up right away and eventually married the princess. "Tell me the story of Ovid Avede," the children shouted. "You told the story of Humpty Dumpty," the others shouted again, and the children started to scream and make noise. But the fir tree still stood still and thought to itself, "And quat, do I have anything to do with these things? And quat." But actually, the tree just made the children happy. And the old man told them the story of Humpty Dumpty, how he fell down the stairs and was picked up and married the princess. The children clapped their hands and shouted loudly, "And quat, tell another story, and quat," because they wanted to hear the Ovid Avede story too, but they had already heard the Humpty Dumpty story. After that, the fir tree stood silent and thoughtful. Did those birds ever tell stories like the one about Humpty Dumpty, who fell down the stairs and then married the princess? So, there are such things in this world. The fir thought. He also believes everything, because the story was told by such a kind person. Then the tree thought, who knows? What if I fall and then marry the princess? And quat. So the fir tree eagerly looked forward to the next evening, waiting for it to be decorated with light bulbs and shiny golden paper toys, decorated with flowers and fruits. Tomorrow I won and number 39's tremble any more, thought the fir tree. I and number 39's enjoy all the splendor. And then I and number 39's hear the story of Humpty Dumpty again, and maybe even the story of Ovid Avede, and the fir tree stood silent, thoughtful all that night. The next morning, the servants and a servant arrived. The fir tree immediately thought, and quat, come on, my whole body is about to sparkle again. And quat, But those people dragged the fir tree out of the room and up to the attic, then threw it into a dark corner of the floor, where there was no daylight, and then they left. "What is this?" thought the fir tree. "What should I do up here? Lying here, what else can you hear?" And so the fir tree had time to think again, because day and night passed without anyone coming. But finally someone came, but only to put big boxes in the corner. So the tree was completely hidden, as if it never existed in this world. It must be winter now, the fir thought. The ground must be hard and covered with snow, so people cannot plant themselves. I definitely have to stay here until spring comes. Why are everyone so thoughtful and kind to me? However, I hope this place ISN and #39 T too dark and remote, with not even a single rabbit running past to take a look. Being in the forest right now feels so comfortable while the snow is still thick on the ground. When that rabbit runs past, yes, and even jumps on me, even though at that time I didn't and #39 T like it at all. Oh, why is this place so lonely? Squeak, squeak, a mouse cried, crawling to the tree, followed by another one. Then both of them pressed their noses to the tree and climbed up the branch. Oh, it and #39. So cold, if not up here, wouldn't and #39 T it be nice, old fir tree? I am #39. Am not cold, said the fir tree. There are many other trees much older than me. Where do you come from? But what do you know? The other mice asked, looking very curious. Have you seen the most beautiful places in the world and tell us about them? And were you in the warehouse, where there were cheeses on shelves and hams hanging from the ceiling? People can run and jump on candles made of animal fat, go in while they are still skinny, but when they come out, they are fat and plump. I Don and #39. T know anything about that place? The fir tree said, but I know the forest where there is sunshine and birds chirping. Then the fir tree told the mice about his youth. The rats had never heard that story in their lives. And after listening attentively, the rats said, Geez, how do you know so many things? You must be very happy. And quat, so happy. The fir tree cried loudly. Then he thought about what he had told the mice, so he continued. Yes, after all those happy days. But when the fir continued and told about the Christmas tree, how beautifully decorated he was, including cakes and lights, the mice said, You must be very happy, fir. Old man. I and #39, am not old at all. The fir tree said. I only came from the forest this winter. Now I and #39, am stunted. You tell such interesting stories, said the mice. Then the next night, 4 more mice came to listen to the fir tree tell a story. The more he talked, the more the fir tree remembered and said to himself, those were beautiful days, but maybe they will come again. Humpty Dumpty fell from the stairs and he married the princess. Maybe I can marry the princess too, then the fir tree thought. About the beautiful little maple tree growing in the forest, which, according to him, was the truly beautiful princess. Who is Humpty Dumpty? The mice asked. Then the fir tree told the whole story. He remembered every word and the mice happily listened, making them want to jump straight to the top of the tree. The next night many mice appeared and on Sunday 2 big mice came with them, but they said it was not a good thing, and the mice felt sorry because it was like be less interested in testifying. So you only know one thing? The big mice asked. Just one thing, the fir tree replied. I heard it on the happiest afternoon of my life, but at that time I didn't and hash 39. Tino, I was so happy. They I think that and number 39. S sad, said those big mice. So you Don and number 39. Tino anything about salted meat or about tallow in the warehouse? No, the Fir Tree answered. Well, thank you. Then, with that, the two big mice ran away. The mice also left, and the Fir Tree had a long rabbit, saying, when those mice are around me and listen to me tell stories, it and number 39 's so interesting. Now it and number 39 's all over. However, I will still consider myself happy if someone comes to drag me out of this place. But will that ever happen? Yes. It was one morning when everyone went up to the attic to clean up the boxes that had been carried away, and the Fir Tree was dragged out of that corner and thrown hard on the floor. Then the servant dragged it down the stairs, where the sunlight shone brightly. So life began again, said the Fir Tree, rejoicing in the sunshine and fresh air. Then in an instant someone brought it out into the yard, so quickly that it no longer had time to think for itself, but could only look around and see how many things there were to see. The yard is close to the garden, where everything is blooming. Fresh, fragrant roses climb on the pretty little fence. The linden trees are blooming, while the swallows flutter, calling, and quat. Cheep, chirp, my mate is coming and quat. But of course they are not talking about the fir trees now. I will live, said the Fir Tree, happily spreading its branches and leaves, but alas, they have all withered, turned yellow, and it lies among the weeds and nettles. The star made of gold glitter paper is still attached to the top of the tree and sparkles in the sunlight. In the yard, there were two children playing, running around the Christmas tree, and they were very happy. The child saw the yellow star, immediately ran back and jumped out of the treetop. Brother, there is something attached to the top of this old fir tree, the boy said, stepping on the branch, creaking under his boots. The tree saw countless flowers blooming brightly in the garden, then looked at itself, wishing it would stay forever in the dark corner of the attic. He remembered his youthful days in the forest, thought of the evening, of the mice sitting and listening to stories about Humpty Dumpty the past. It and number 39, all in the past. The old Fir Tree said, "Oh, how I wish I could enjoy it while I still have the strength. But now it and number 39, too late." Then a young man came and cut the tree into small pieces, until it became a large pile looming in the yard. Those pieces of wood were piled up next to the fireplace, under a copper pot, and suddenly a fire broke out. While the tree groaned sadly, each piece of wood sighed like a pistol shot. The children who were playing ran over and sat down in front of the fire. They looked in and shouted, and quat, dop, dop and quat. And after each pop, there was a deep sigh, and the tree thought again of those summer days in the woods, of that Christmas evening, and of the story of Humpty Dumpty, the only story that it hears or knows how to tell, until at last it crumbles to ashes. The boys were still playing in the garden. The youngest had pinned the glitter paper star that had been used to decorate the fir tree on the happiest day of his life on his chest. Now everything is over and the story is no longer told, because all stories eventually come to an end. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.